we've heard Russia kind of banging drums about we'll accept cryptocurrency, we'll accept Bitcoin. We'll see how much that really comes to fruition and whether they're not out there mining or whatever they're doing. I think the evidence is strong that they're out there mining in Siberia, but you know, um, I think that long term, sure, the foreign countries and foreign sovereigns should be putting Bitcoin on their balance sheets, and this is the game theory. This is where it comes down to game theory and who they are. And if you're talking about the United States and worried about Bitcoin being a threat to the US dollar, it's not a threat to the dollar. It might just save it.
The cryptocurrency market, particularly Bitcoin, has seen considerable changes recently. After dropping below $54,000 in early September, it rebounded 24% to more than $66,000 from September 9th and September 27th. However, Middle East tensions forced a fall, returning the price to around $60,000. The price rose past $61,000 on Friday and reached $63,000 over the weekend, aided by a post-correction rally since the adjustment felt exaggerated. Financial analysts James Lavish and Lawrence Lepard recently discussed Bitcoin's importance in the larger economic landscape with podcaster Natalie Brunell. They examined the imminent collapse of the US dollar, the benefits of Bitcoin, its ability to save individuals and nations, and its political consequences. James Lavish stated that removing Russian assets and treasuries was monumentally stupid, warning other countries that if they disagreed, the US would take their assets. This reduced demand for US bonds and long-term treasuries, pushing countries to shift to gold and BRICS currencies. Lavish proposed Bitcoin as an alternative, citing Russia's interest in accepting cryptocurrency. As we bring you a short clip from Natalie Brunell's video, kindly take some time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. They would help to boost the YouTube algorithm and support the channel's growth. Thank you. Please enjoy the video.
One of the issues that we've seen over the past few years of decreasing demand internationally for U.S. bonds, and especially long-term treasuries, is that we did something monumentally stupid, like monumentally dumb, when we seized and froze and seized Russian assets and treasuries. That signaled to the world that if you're not a direct ally of the United States and you do something we don't agree with, we may just take your toys away from you. We literally take your money from you. Mm-hmm. And so that just signaled to the world to be careful about owning and trusting the government, U.S. government, and long-term treasuries. It was so monumentally stupid that might have been the biggest mistake that this administration has done.
We weaponized the dollar. Yeah.
Weaponized the treasury and the dollar. Yeah. It was so dumb, and it's going to be painful. So that's one reason that these sovereigns have turned to gold and have turned to, and BRICS in my opinion, isn't trying to start their own currency. They're just trying to figure a way out of having to own U.S. treasuries in order to make energy deals and to have cross-border trade. How can we do that? Well, one of the long-term solutions, gold is not a great solution for that. Gold-backed currencies is not a great solution to that, because it's very difficult for them to determine how much gold you actually had. Can you see President Xi and Putin allowing their operatives to go into their vaults to count up their gold and to test it to make sure? No, of course that's not going to happen. So what could they do that's different? Well, they could do it with Bitcoin. And we've heard Russia kind of banging drums about we'll accept cryptocurrency, we'll accept Bitcoin. We'll see how much that really comes to fruition and whether they're not out there mining or whatever they're doing. I think the evidence is strong that they're out there mining in Siberia. But, I think that long term, sure, the foreign countries and foreign sovereigns should be putting Bitcoin on their balance sheets. And this is the game theory. This is where it comes down to game theory and who they are. And if you're talking about the United States and worried about Bitcoin being a threat to the US dollar, it's not a threat to the dollar. It might just save it. And that's the whole point.
I agree with all that, but to address your issue of what they could do to mess us up, look, Roosevelt grabbed the gold in 33, devalued the dollar by 70%, overnight, and, used that as a way to start to get out of the Depression. This is existential for them. I mean, I could very easily see the, Save the Save the American Dollar Act, which, says that if you own gold or Bitcoin, you got to report what you own, and that the taxes on owning those are now 75 or 80%. And and even so far as, I mean, this is why I think it's okay to buy an ETF if you don't worry about this risk. But me personally, other than my IRAs, which I can't buy Bitcoin any other way, I think self-sovereignty is so important because, just as some countries in the past have said, well, our currency is shit, we're going to grab all the gold mines and refill our coffers. It would be very easy for the United States government to pass a law saying, you know what, let's just cash out everybody who's got a Bitcoin ETF. We'll send them dollars, and that Bitcoin will now belong to the government, right? And
and just
and
a
that
note.
so you don't. Oh, and by the way, you can be sure that the day after that happened, Bitcoin would go up 1,000%.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
it really does go to, not your keys, not your coins, right? And do I underestimate what these people do? Absolutely not. I mean, they've effed me at every single chance they've had for the last 40 years. And, they're evil and, they're psychopathic. And yeah, they'll do it. They'll do it if they can get enough people and they can somehow justify doing it.
Lawrence Lepard pointed out that possessing assets such as precious metals and Bitcoin would provide a safety net in the event of a dollar collapse, even if the scenario was unpleasant. Lepard emphasized Bitcoin's networking effect, likening its expansion to Metcalfe's law. He recognized Bitcoin's political significance as a competitor currency to the US dollar. Lepard voiced cautious optimism that people will comprehend Bitcoin and reject destructive ideas. Despite the short-term agony, James Lavish remains optimistic about Bitcoin's ability to help individuals and nations. He believes understanding Bitcoin's value proposition will lead to a favorable mindset. Lepard agreed with Lavish, noting the internet and Bitcoin as examples of how information control mechanisms are being broken down. Lepard said that vigilance is critical during this important economic shift. Let's go back to the interview and watch more clips to gain insights from James Lavish and Lawrence Lepard.
If the dollar fails, you're going to be really glad that you own things that can't be printed, silver, gold, Bitcoin. But, you're not going to really like the way the world looks. In that scenario, it's not going to be a pretty scenario. But probably what will happen is, countries will break up and new countries will emerge, and there'll be countries that, that have, rule of law and protect assets and protect citizens' rights, and, productive citizens will move there. None of us can foresee how this is going to unfold.
Right.
And I would prefer for it to unfold in a very balanced way where, as James says,
Right.
the U.S. government embraces Bitcoin, puts it on its balance sheet, backs the dollar. I mean, that's all great and wonderful. The problem is, look at the jokers we've got in Washington, D.C. right now. What are the odds of that happening? I mean, it's going to take some really enlightened leadership. It's based on networking and, Metcalfe's law, how a network grows, the value grows geometrically. It's a perfect comparable. The difference is that Apple was providing a service, and this is providing a competing currency to the U.S., to the currency that the corrupt federal government has as their tool for subjugating the world and making the Nancy Pelosi's of the world rich. And so, so there's a political angle to it. But look, if we can get enough people to understand this, and if we can get young voters to reject, the socialism and the Marxism and the stupid ideas that are being put forth by the left, then, there's a chance that, we could become Galt's Gulch. I say that, cautiously optimistic that's what'll happen. I don't want to go down the bad path, but I don't think ignoring the bad path is a realistic assessment of the risks.
Ultimately, I'm an optimist on all of this. And I do believe, Natalie, that Bitcoin's going to save us, and it's going to save us personally. It's going to save the nation. The path to that, there may be some pain in between. There likely will be. But I'm an optimist, and that's why we started this hedge fund. That's why we've got the Bitcoin Opportunity Fund, because we believe in Bitcoin and the ecosystem. We're investing in it. I mean, I've essentially dedicated my career to, not essentially, I have dedicated my career to it now. That's how strongly I believe in it. It'd be easier to just go on Wall Street and go do some private equity or make a bunch of money, in the fiat system, because it rewards people for, kind of brainless behavior. But this is taking personal risk, and it's something that the further down the rabbit hole you go, the more you research it, the further you get away from the people who are around you. And so what you're feeling likely, Natalie, is that, am I crazy? Have I lost my mind that I really do believe in this? Am I just brainwashed with this Bitcoin thing? Or am I really seeing something that people around me just are not seeing? And I believe you are. And so ultimately, I'm an optimist on all of it, because, everybody who does their research on Bitcoin and truly does understand it, in my experience, comes across that chasm and says, oh my God, how did I not see this before?
Yeah, I would echo James's thoughts. I mean, I obviously painted the black, scenario just because I want people to be, eyes wide open and fully protect themselves. I too am very much an optimist. I mean, the technology is going to save us. I mean, the technology of the internet is breaking down the information control structure that the powers that be have had. And we finally got people like yourself and Joe Rogan and Tucker, and I mean, many, many others who, are challenging the mainstream narrative. And that's enormously powerful and is going to topple that narrative. And then, if you take that to the next step, this is money, with the same set of characteristics: distributed, free, fair, etc. And, I think these two things are going to save humanity. I would just suggest, though, that between here and there, keep your eyes wide open.
James Lavish believes foreign countries should include Bitcoin on their balance sheets, presenting it as a game theory decision that may save the U.S. currency. Meanwhile, historical data demonstrates a negative relationship between Bitcoin and the U.S. dollar index, particularly over the medium to long term. The dollar index weakened following the U.S. presidential elections, boosting Bitcoin's price. This pattern remained consistent in 2012, 2016, and 2020. The forthcoming U.S. elections on November 5th, as well as the subsequent Bitcoin halving, may have an impact on market sentiment. Asian markets, especially China's monetary policies, have a huge impact. The Chinese central bank's quantitative easing policies have pumped money into the financial system, propelling the Hang Seng Index 55% higher since January 2024. This increase is surprising, given that the index fell from 22,700 points to 14,800 between January 2023 and January 2024. In contrast, U.S. markets are unsettled. While a short-term recession appears improbable, the Federal Reserve's monetary policy is still a factor. Markets had projected a 50 basis point rate decrease at the upcoming FOMC meeting, but now estimate a 25 basis point cut, or maybe none. Asian markets powered last night's increase to nearly $64,000, but the price sank below $63,000 when they closed. What do you think about the potential of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies to safeguard against economic uncertainty and protect individual wealth? Please drop your thoughts in the comments below, share this video, and hit your thumbs on the like button. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.